Hey y'all! So today's video is going to be all about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Kind of getting used to that and being able to live in that space. So for a lot of people who are listening, you're probably interested in body composition goals, right? Like if I had to go, but most of my audience are probably listening to this for like, you know, building muscle, losing weight, like that kind of stuff. And this goes also though for like life, business, everything, right? When you are comfortable, being in that uncomfortable space is really when you're going to grow. And I know this is so cliche and everybody always says that, but hear me out. It really is important. So for a lot of people, we'll start with kind of like the dieting side of it. Because again, this is kind of where I usually see it. Most people are comfortable yo-yo dieting. What I mean by that is you will be like, okay, I'm doing this goal. I'm focused. Like we're dieting, it's on, right? This is hard, extreme, like suffering, like I love this shit, okay? And then something else happens and then you're like, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna go eat everything. I'm not gonna go to the gym for a few days. I'm gonna do whatever it is, right? Kind of fall off the other way. And then you're like, shit, I need to get back over here. And then you go back through these extremes, right? So like yo-yo dieting, I would say that that's like a good way of describing it. It can be described in a bunch of different ways, but like we'll use that as our example, right? So that kind of up and down extremist feeling. And why do I know that? Because I've been there and I still go through that kind of stuff. And it's just kind of a personality trait. And a lot of people fall into this who are in kind of the health and fitness space. Like we enjoy the extremes of both ends, right? But what ends up happening when you go through that kind of a phase, right, is now you've done this many times and then you're like, this is it. I finally want to lose weight. Finally gonna do it. Finally getting my shit together. But get back, come screeching back. There may or may not be, it may not be the best time to do that, right? So there's something called, you know, reverse dieting. A lot of you guys have heard me talk about this, or really just in general, taking an off season, even if you're not, you know, reverse dieting hardcore, taking a time where you are not chronically trying to diet, okay? And I use the word trying as the main word here because what happens a lot of times, like I said, people will diet pretty hard and then they'll fall off a little bit and then try to keep dieting and fall off and then it just, you never really get anywhere. But now your body has so many mixed signals because it's like, okay, you're not being consistent, we're down regulating things because we're in a restriction, but then you overfeed us, but then it's not constant. Like it's just a lot of things going on. So if you're falling into this, and I understand that the inclination is like, I want to diet, I want to finally get after it, like I'm going to prove it to myself this time. Slow your roll. What we really need to do is get consistent and be there for several months. Now, I know that the several month thing kind of sucks, right? You're like, wait, no, Lauren, I want results right now. Well, the problem is you've always wanted results right now, which is why you don't have the results because they don't happen right now. And you have to have a solid foundation before you can even make progress, right? So a lot of people just in general, like I said, will kind of fall into this and they're like, no, I'm going to prove it to myself. I'm doing it. No, you're not. If you've ever failed with this before, you need to take a step back and go, okay, what can I do to actually put myself in the best position possible? And this is also what happens too with people who are competitors, right? So we go through this process, a very, very arduous process of getting leaner, right? And every week it's like the scale's going down, we're getting smaller, like, yeah, that's great. And then you get to a point where it's kind of like, okay, this is no longer fun. I can't wait for the diet to be over. Like this sucks. I feel like shit every day. Understandable as well. Afterwards, we gotta get past the show, kind of start reversing, like, oh, everything's good, like I feel way better, like I've gained some weight, but like I'm happy, like it's all fine. Then we kind of reach a point where it's like, I'm getting a little uncomfortable, right? Maybe like they're, you know, we're kind of pushing the food a little bit, or, you know, you maybe feel like, okay, I don't really want to gain any more weight, or this, that. If you have an extreme goal of getting on stage and you need to gain muscle mass, which is, I'd say 90% of people that I coach, you're gonna have to be uncomfortable in this period, right? So most people are fine, like I said, with the discomfort of the dieting. Not all, but most people don't want to be uncomfortable in the off season, so they want to always be dieting for something. Oh, there's an expo coming up. Oh, I'm going on a vacation. Oh, let me tell you, nobody gives a fuck what you look like at any of those places. Trust me. Go to an expo, everybody's thinking about themselves. There's like a million people there. Nobody cares. Nobody's gonna fire you for like for having like 4 abs instead of 2 or whatever. No. Going on vacation, newsflash, most people are fat, so they really don't care that you may or may not have, you know, again, like abs or like your, you know, your glutes being super tight or whatever, or like, oh, I have whatever it could be coming up. And the people who are always putting those short-term goals first and not the long-term goals are the ones that don't ever really achieve long-term success. So if you're always going for like the next little thing, like this event, that event, blah, 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 and up and down, your body doesn't understand what the fuck is going on, and it's not going to respond appropriately. So that's why when we diet, we need to be like ready, all in, consistent, mentally a good place, physically a good place, all of that jazz. Same thing goes for the off season. You have to be in a place to give as much as possible there, right? Like you have to understand like, hey, I'm gonna probably be a little bit more uncomfortable than I'd like to be. I'm gonna be, you know, pushing it in the gym, we'll be pushing the food, but that's when you grow. And this does differ dramatically if you're a competitor or you're not a competitor. So I get, if you're like, hey, Lauren, I'm not competing. I don't necessarily want to get, you know, much bigger and feel super uncomfortable. And there is validity to that, but you have to put things into perspective. If you have up and down, yo-yo, dieted, whatever, been on a plan, fallen off 100 times for like 10 years, and you're thinking that you're just gonna fix this with one diet, not so fast. There's gonna be periods of being uncomfortable. There's gonna be periods of reversing and dieting and reversing and dieting, and that's just the way that it goes. And I wish I could say like, oh, there's a way to fix all of this super quickly, but what I've just found over time is that it takes time, it takes longer than we'd like. So just in general, be ready to be uncomfortable and be comfortable with that discomfort, right? And not just the, I hate myself, I want to diet discomfort. I'm talking, you know, all the other kinds of discomforts as well. And just not just falling prey, I guess, to all of the things that are just dangling in front of your face that like you could want to either diet or fall off the plan for. It goes both ways, right? Like, oh, there's this event coming up, I'm just gonna fall off the plan, I'm just gonna start dieting, right? No. Or, oh, there's this event, I'm just gonna fall off the plan. Also, no, we're not trying to do that either, right? Like it's not one thing or the other. It's kind of in that middle ground, which is the hardest thing. Now, if you do any of those things, either way, it's not like all hope is lost, but as much as possible, we really, really need to be consistent, kind of be in that middle ground. And trust me, like I'm speaking to myself over here too, like it's not like I'm immune to all this. Like I fall into these extreme patterns as well. 7.5 years later, I've been doing this, you know, I've been competing for that long. So even before then, so like 8 years, I've been like interested in all of this stuff, right? It's a long time. You think I'd have my shit figured out. I don't. Some days I do, some days I don't. And some periods I do and some periods I don't. But you have to recognize when you're falling into those patterns and pull yourself out before things get really bad. And that's where having somebody for accountability and like having a coach or a friend or a mentor or whatever is really, really important. And the same, like I said, kind of goes for life and business. Like you have to really always be pushing yourself out of those comfort zones, and without it sounding like too cliche and like stupid, like that is realistic, right? As soon as you kind of get comfortable with what you're doing, somebody else who's not comfortable is gonna blow right past you. So I hope this was helpful, you guys, and I know this is something that a lot of us struggle with. I struggle with, everybody here struggles with in different ways. But just remember, get comfortable being uncomfortable, and your long-term goals will be so much better. So long game is always the best game to play, even though the short game is very tempting. So thank you guys for listening. I hope this was helpful, and I'll catch you later.